Welcome to Neon Dream Games. I'm Nick, and in this video, I'm going to be talking about when you should consider abandoning your game. As I said, I'm going to be talking about when you should consider abandoning your game. Now, I want to preface this with, generally speaking, I don't think you should abandon your game. And I don't want you to make that decision lightly if you are considering that. So I'm going to go over some reasons why you would consider abandoning your game. And to be honest, I think you need to hit a lot of these reasons before you consider abandoning your game. Because before we talk about abandoning your game, I want to say why you should push on and press through to complete your game. And that is, most indie game developers don't actually complete games. They just eternally make games. They get stuck in tutorial hell. They continue to just add on to their, quote unquote dream game, which maybe I'll make a video on. I'm not so sure you should make your dream game first. In fact, I'm going to go out on a ledge and say, don't make your dream game first. Because in life and in any creative endeavor, for the most part, anything that you do first is in most cases going to fail, or it's going to be not your best because you haven't learned from it yet. You haven't grown from it yet. So that's why I think people shouldn't make a dream game, quotes, until they've failed a couple of times. And by fail, I'm still talking about completing, because just making a game is a big achievement on its own. So never think that you're a failure when you complete something. But in your failures, no matter what they are, if you abandon a game, if you complete a game and it's terrible, it's commercially terrible or whatever, learn from your failures, learn from your mistakes, grow from them. Don't just quit. So when I say what are some good reasons to abandon a game, I'm not talking about quitting. I'm just saying abandon the path you're on at the moment to, well, for one, to stop and learn from it. Why are you abandoning this? So learn from that reason. And then don't quit. That's the second thing. Don't quit. And the third thing would be to start something new using the things that you learned and the knowledge you gained, because you're always gaining knowledge. You just have to look at it, look at the situation. What did you learn from this? You're always learning something. And then make the next thing better. So, kind of a long preface there. Again, don't abandon your game unless you're really hitting on a lot of these things I'm about to talk about. So let's just get into some of these reasons here. So I'm gonna make this personal because I'm basically abandoning my game. That's the decision I've come up to. You've probably seen it alluded to in my game dev logs, but the decision has been made for me to abandon my game Fruits versus Veggies. At least for now. Maybe I will go back to it. But here are several reasons why I'm abandoning my game, and maybe even a few that are just other things that I've learned from watching other game developers and their devlogs and videos and other things. So to start off, growing disinterested in it. I am increasingly growing disinterested in the game I'm making. Now, everybody's going to probably have ups and downs. You're going to work on something in your game that you don't love to work on. That's not a reason. That's not a reason to be disinterested in it. You've got to learn to be disciplined and push through those things. So I think I heard somebody talk about it in one of their videos recently, where you have to look at those things. You have to look at the things that interest you, you're excited to program and design and do, and then you have to look at the things that you aren't as excited to do and balance those out. Make sure to work on the things you aren't excited for a little bit here and there in the middle of the things you are excited to work on. Because if you just save all the things you're not excited for till the end, you're going to really struggle to finish your game. So get some of those things done along the way, sprinkle them in, just deal with them, push through, get it done. So when I say growing disinterested in it, I'm not talking about that. So I guess that point, what am I talking about? That point sort of leads into some of these other points that I guess I'm trying to make. Growing disinterested means, well, let's just go through the list of different things. You don't have a complete idea. Now, this was a mistake I made. Even though I created a game developer document, a GDD, sometimes that's just not enough. But to be honest, it should be putting you on the path right away. And one thing that I didn't really have, I was so focused on creating a small game, which I'm gonna get to in a little bit here, but I didn't spend enough time really trying to think about what is my game loop, what is my gameplay hook. And I've heard Thomas Brush talk about it, your USP, which is your universal selling point. If somebody asked you what is interesting about your game, what's the selling point? If you can't answer that question, you shouldn't make your game. And I couldn't honestly answer that question. I actually had somebody comment and say, what is the point of this? It was kind of a rude comment. I deleted it because I'm fine with constructive criticism and having a bit of banter back and forth, but this person wasn't being constructive. They were being just rude. But it did get me thinking about what is the point of my game? It's like Plants vs. Zombies. And I thought that was enough to say it's like Plants vs. Zombies, but a little different. That's not enough. Because as I started programming, you've seen how far I've gotten and progressed on it. It's a game. I mean, it does stuff. You can battle, but I guess that's going to lead me into my next point in a bit. It's just not fun. I'm not having fun with it. I don't know how to make it fun. I've got ideas, but this is why you need to have that universal selling point. People call it feature creep, when you just keep adding features, trying things out to see if you can make your game more fun. And that just doesn't work in the development stage. Essentially, you need to have that planned ahead of time so you know what you're doing, you know your goal, and honestly, that should be tested in a prototype stage. I mean, if you're not really excited about the idea from the planning stage, like a game design document, before you even start programming or prototyping, you probably shouldn't even start prototyping. So why should you abandon your game? Back to that question. You should abandon a game that you didn't plan properly, because you're just going to keep going forward in a poorly planned game that ultimately you're not going to really like. You're not going to enjoy making it, because even if it looks good or whatever, you're just not going to enjoy the process. And if you don't feel good about it yourself, if you don't think it's fun as the game designer, why is anybody else going to think it's fun? So those are a couple of reasons on, I guess, really focused on the planning part of it. I mean, I could probably break down these ideas into many smaller videos, and maybe I will. Maybe I'll talk about these in future videos and really kind of hone in on these subjects. But this video is already kind of getting long and I haven't even hit all my points. So I guess keep an eye out on that on my channel. I might break down these ideas into smaller, more focused videos. So I'm just going to keep moving on into some of my other reasons. You need a break to refocus. And again, they're all kind of stacked on each other. You shouldn't necessarily need a break to refocus if you've planned your game properly. So that's just another area. It's another area I'm struggling in with my game right now, because I've been watching some game jam videos and stuff like that, and seeing all these games that people make relatively quickly, and they just look fun. They just look like a fun game to play. And then I go back to my game and I'm like, my game's not fun. So that's kind of, it's not fun. Need to refocus. And then time is more valuable. Time is one of the greatest commodities. At least that's how I feel. And time is more valuable than just pressing on to finish your game when all these other things that I've already mentioned aren't hitting. Don't waste your time. Don't waste your time on a game you're not yourself interested in. And I want to be clear, your first game more than likely is going to suck. I mean, if you made your best game as your first game, that would suck, basically. I mean, because what are you going to do for the rest of your life? You're just going to make a bunch of worse games, or always having to try to achieve to be the best. The whole point is you need to make that first game so you can get your lessons out of it and learn from it and go and take those things and make a better next game, and you're going to make a better next game and a next game that's going to be better, and you're going to keep growing and getting better. So again, it's bothering me that I want to abandon my game because I just wanted to be disciplined and make this game, because I know no matter what I make, the first game isn't going to be probably, I mean, there's a few success stories and they're minimal and far and few between that somebody makes a huge hit on their first game. Most stories are not that way. And I want to just get that part of my story out of the way to learn how to release a game, launch a game. It's more than just programming a game, but it's like, how do you release and launch one? I was working on creating a Steam page, and that's tough. It's a lot more than I thought. So don't just abandon your game lightly, but time is more valuable. And I have learned lessons. I've learned great lessons. I abandoned another game, my reverse tower defense game, because I felt like the scope was too big and I was having problems programming it. I needed something simpler. Well, this Fruits versus Veggies game, it was more simple. It was a good way for me to learn a few things. And even still, I've learned things that I would like to do differently next time. But you're too deep into the code and whatever, so you just kind of fumble through it. So there's still things to learn here, even if I'm abandoning my game. And I talked about scope again. I have a video that many people have watched about scope, and I might even make another video about scope, because now that I've started this game, I've realized I was trying to make a small scoped game. That is still my goal. I want to make a very small scoped microscope. I kind of like to say that. I just want to make a small game so that I can release it quickly, get it onto the market, learn my lessons on how to release a game, how to create a Steam page, how to finish a game. I want to get those lessons. So I don't want to abandon. I don't take this decision lightly to abandon my game. I want to say I'm an indie game developer, and I honestly don't think you can truly say that until you release a game. I don't care if it's the worst game in the world, but until you can get a game up on a commercial platform like Steam, because that takes effort to do it. But scope, my game was too big. Even it is small, but it was still too big, too lofty. And I should have known that, again, if I would have had a better game design document and thought of a better universal selling point and been very concise with planning and getting ready to make a game that has a focus to it. So I'm making this video right now to help all of you learn from already the mistakes that I've made very early on. And that is the point of this channel, is to look at your progress and assess. Always assess. Don't just finish things. Sometimes you need discipline and finish things, but don't just finish things that are going to waste your time. Learn from it. Take everything that you've done and learn from it and apply it to something new. Don't quit. Remember that. Don't quit. Abandoning and quitting are different in this case. Press on with a new project. Get right back up on that horse and keep going. That's what I'm going to do. And I've mentioned it. I want to put into practice some of these early development things. I want to figure out what a universal selling point is. I want to make some prototypes. I was thinking back on the tutorials that I did, leading up to this point, learning how to program, learning how to make a game. And I had fun with those tutorials. They were just small games, quick games to make. And honestly, in some ways, they were a little bit more fun. I mean, they're simple, and I could add on to them if I wanted to, if I really had, stopped and thought about it. And I want to get back to that because I just want to make games. I mean, that's the goal. That's my future goal. But I want to make the right games. I want to do the right thing. So planning is key. I've said it in other videos, but I'm learning as I'm going and learning how to improve the planning. So again, I might make some more videos on this stuff as I continue to learn. I'm gonna cut this video off here. It's getting really long, and if you've listened all the way through, that's awesome. And I want to know what you think in the comments. Where are you at in your game? Do you need to take a cold, hard look at your game and make some of these same decisions I did? Remember, don't take it lightly. If your game is viable and you have a good universal selling point, but you're just trying to push through some features and things that you had planned and are good features, but maybe it's not as fun for you to program those things, push through and finish. If you have a good idea, good universal selling point, a good game design document, a good hook, you're enjoying your own game, it's fun to play, push through and finish it. But if you don't have those things, and that's how I feel, consider stopping because you don't want to keep wasting your time and get back onto something. Learn your lessons, get back onto something, and start a new project, start new prototypes until you land on something that's like, yeah, this is it. This is the one to go forward with. And just remember, your first game, the main thing with your first game is to just make a first game. Don't worry about it being commercially viable, which is why I think you should stick with a small scope game. Don't make your dream game first. Don't do that. Don't spend a year to 2 years to 3 years plus making your first game. It's just not smart. I'm going to just say it right now. It's just not smart to do that. You need to learn lessons first. One of those lessons is how to release a game, how to finish a game, how to release a game commercially. Don't waste that on your first game, your dream game, I should say. Don't waste those lessons on your dream game. Make your dream game, 3 or 4 games in when you've got comfortable with game design and releasing games. Then maybe you can consider, or, after you have somewhat successful game commercially speaking. Anyways, sorry, I'm trying to wrap up this video and I keep talking, I keep having new thoughts. So this is just going to be a longer video and I hope you guys get through it. I think the ones that are struggling with this will get through it, but let me know your journey. I love to hear from you guys. You guys have been so positive and encouraging to me and I love it. I appreciate it. I love to hear from you. And I'm sorry if I'm, disappointing you by abandoning my game, but I really have to look at this situation. I've got to make this decision. I don't have the time. I don't even know if I mentioned the time, but I'm working another job now. When you don't have the ability to make your game full time, that's another piece of the puzzle. You really got to like what you're doing because time is precious. Time is valuable. I did talk about that, but leave comments for me. Tell me your story. Tell me what's going on with your game development journey. Do you have any lessons or things to add to mine, things you've learned? Leave that in the comments, and I'm going to just wrap it up here. Neon will have the end card call outs for you. But anyways, keep doing what you're doing. Consider my thoughts and my ideas on abandoning a game heavily. Like weigh them heavily. Don't take it lightly. You really need to consider it and think about it. But until next time, keep YouTubing it up.
Thanks for checking out Neon Dream Games channel. Please make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that bell button so you can stay up to date on all the latest videos we have to offer. Don't forget to leave a comment to suggest what kind of videos you'd like to see more of in the future. See you in the next video.